First World Order Radio. Finally, we are on the air. No doubt. All right.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio.
We get on into some of that order consciousness tonight.
First World Order Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m.
We got to talk about what is taking place on the planet.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio. First, we need to let you know we're going to be doing more shows, giving out more information on Wednesdays. Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we are now going to make this the hottest day of the week.
Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it. Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it.
You need to understand how magical this, something like this every Wednesday can become. So you need to start getting your calendar right, get your schedule right. You need to know our intention straight out.
All right, so, these clues are given throughout the various languages was to piece the puzzle of this ancient mystery school back together again.
And what we plan on doing, both of us, is bringing y'all some surefire dynamite. We're going to take this level up a notch. We're going to have stuff to do here. This is not just going to be about philosophies and theories, shit that works.
Peace. We back once again with Dr. Alim El-Bey. We on the show, and tonight's discussion is going to be on World War III, potentially, as well as also the FEMA concentration camps or debtor prisons, as they're also referred to as, and the recent passing of these particular bills that have actually set all of this into place. We have another breaking news story in which that Alex Jones reported just recently about the activation of these FEMA camps. So we want to definitely listen to that, and we're going to get into our nightly discussion after that.
If you thought the NDAA was bad, National Defense Authorization Act of last week was bad, if you thought that was hardcore, the secret arrest of Americans, the end of posse comitatus, military on the streets, the whole world a battlefield, if you thought all the announcements that they want to take your pension funds and put them into government control was bad, if you thought any of this MF Global stuff was bad, this new piece of intel that came in today that we researched all day and then put an article out just an hour or so ago on or less, if you think that all of that was crazy, this little piece was a crystallizer, was a real indicator of just how serious things are. And what am I talking about? Well, there it is on screen right there. Exclusive government activating FEMA camps across America, across the United States. And of course, that's quite a headline. We have the emails, we have the internal Halliburton KBR documents, government defense and infrastructure, not for public eyes, restricted info, sent to us by people in government. I'll just leave it at that. And it's got the 5 regions for the FEMA camps, and it talks about barricades and barbed wire and armed guards. And it says that they built the camps and that now they need to get ready to staff them, and that they need to be ready within a 72-hour period for the guards and the people in the canteen with the food and the launderers and just the whole 9 yards. There it is. So They've been setting this up for more than 2 decades, and now they started earlier in the year, back in February of this year, advertising for upwards of 100,000 internment specialists here in the United States, and now we're learning where they'll be at. Now this particular manning of the camp is your local sports stadium, your local FEMA center. These are 300-person camps to 1,000-person camps where they then interrogate you and go over things, and then you're sent off to the 1 million-man camps that we're going to be breaking down. But I tell you what, I did a whole report on this. Oh, thank you, Marcos. Appreciate that water. I've done a whole report on this that's coming up. But I suggest that you do what anybody with common sense, and of course our listeners, I think I have a little extra common sense, I would call your friends and family right now. And I would tell them to mosey on over to Infowars.com so they can see this information. And I would tell them to get this information because it's a lengthy article that Kurt Nemo and I put together this afternoon. It goes over all of it. And it's got links to films and congressional hearings and admissions of all of this. And so I want to challenge everybody to call their friends and their families now and realize that the new economy is to put tens of millions of people, we already have the biggest prison population in the world, in this archipelago, this giant chain of facilities all over the country. Because it's all there. All the government documents, all the government admissions, a civilian inmate labor camp program run by the Army, where they're at, all the details down to how they're going to break the families up and where the children go and the forced inoculations and everything. The executive orders, the legislation, the congressional hearings. But I tell you, Glenn Beck used to giggle and laugh a couple of years ago. He really enjoyed that. Where for over a month he built it up that I think FEMA camps are real. We've done an investigation and we're going to expose it on this date. Then the date would come and he's, oh, I'm sorry, we're not ready, but it's bad what we're finding. And then a day later, after saying, oh, we have popular mechanics, the yellow journalism specialist of the famous family of yellow journalism that wrote the book on it. They made a movie about it with Orson Welles, Citizen Kane. And they came out and they said that, oh, I did research, none of it's true, it's all fake. And they said, look at this website, it's a photo of a North Korean prison, doesn't exist here. And look at this website, they say that this train station is a FEMA camp. And I had even predicted a few days before that they would go with that straw man attack because I'd sent them all the information. I could see what they were doing. And this is the military-industrial complex absorbing America. You think China's driving down your wages? You think Mexico? You think India? You think Paraguay is driving down your wages? At least there, it's pretty much a prison, but the families are getting something. This is people in prisons that are taxpayer paid for, and then the profit is off of somebody working for 25 cents an hour or less. Telemarketing, furniture, license plates, refurbishing computers. And by the way, the Japanese-American main groups come out and said they're worried about the NDAA and secret arrest of Americans and all the rest of this. I mean, it just boggles the mind that all of this is happening. And then on the heels of the NDAA, they've built the camps, they've admitted the camps are going in, and now they want the personnel to man them. And they say you've got to be signed up starting next year in February. and you've got to be ready from them on out. You're given a basic contract to be standing by to man the camps. So they're paying groups now to man the camps. I mean, let me think. They've been building the camps for decades. They've been keeping them quiet, but they're on old military bases and private facilities. That's admitted now in the Emergency Centers Establishment Act. It documents that our analysis was spot on. It's exactly what we had seen them building and constructing, but we were only piecing it together and reverse engineering, and it confirmed it all and more. In fact, it stunned me how accurate we were with the pieces we had. But now all the pieces are in the jigsaw puzzle, and so these things are in place. They build a bunch of them, small ones, medium ones, huge 1 million person camps. I mean, that's a big city. That's a camp the size of Austin, Texas. I mean, my God. And it talks about the civilian inmate labor camp. It says you're going to work in these. And I've heard Michael Savage years ago say, we're going to make these people that are in the camps work. We're not going to pay for you. No, no, you're going to work for nothing and then displace everybody else's jobs. I mean, I guess the slave camps that Walmart and others have bought their goods from in China, they're just going to move them here now. And, of course, who cares if the Constitution says all this is wrong? They have basically thrown that down the toilet. Makes the crimes of Nixon look like something a choir boy would do. So Rex 84 is in place. All of this has happened. All of this has been done. And I am live here at 7:32 Central, 8:32 Eastern, reporting to you live right now, asking you to call your friends and family and to have them go to Infowars.com. Project overview and anticipated project requirements, lining the people up to now man the camps, right as the world economy collapses by design, right as the New World Order banking system is announced, right as the sovereignty is butchered, right as they get rid of Posse Comitatus, right as they tell you they're going to arrest you, right as it comes out that they're calling mainline protesters terrorists and telling cops this, right as this treason is trotted out in everybody's face, exclusive government activating FEMA camps across America. It's one thing to build them. I saw a couple of years ago where they were taking and refurbishing the old Japanese camps for use. That was in Associated Press. I mean, this is so chilling. And then you see people like Colbert making fun of this, and you know, that's coming up later in the show we taped. It's just so sad this has to happen. I mean, this is not going to be good for 99.9% of us. This is not good for our society. The globalists have a philosophy of eugenics and post-industrial world and shutdown of the economy. And you look at what happened to the Japanese, where they took, many of them owned companies and shipping companies and fishing companies and big farms, very hardworking people in the free market system. Some of them were millionaires in the 1940s, which is like being worth hundreds of millions today. And they just took their stuff, raped their women in many cases. And their sons still, though, to prove themselves, went and joined the U.S. military and went and fought and died valiantly in the European theater. I mean, as if somebody who'd been American for 100 years couldn't be trusted. And they arrested some Italians and some Germans as well. In fact, Fredericksburg, outside Austin, they put up signs saying that they were a Dutch or Croatian, depending on which sign they put up, community. And they said, oh, we're not German. They took all the German signs down. Now it's a big tourist trap. And, you know, ran around saying, hey, don't come after us. We're not German. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, if we had a war with England, when we started arresting anybody who had an English name, oh, my name's Jones, or let's say we had a war with Mexico, which could happen. Mexico is just totally collapsed, out of control. Would we arrest everybody with the name Gonzalez or Hernandez? I mean, this is what we're talking about. And then you get the internal documents, and they are saying they're going to go after people who are constitutionalists, people who actually understand what's going on. I mean, remember, Fox News and Glenn Beck said there were no FEMA camps when it was in the Wall Street Journal before it got bought by Rupert Murdoch. I mean, this is the type of stuff that we're facing. Again, I shot like an hour and 45 minutes. There were a few screw-ups, a few graphics that went haywire. It's an incredible transmission tonight. You know, sure, it gets seen by members of PrisonPlanet.tv, and then it goes out on the web later to everybody else. And I'm sad that our average newscast only gets seen by a couple 100,000 people. And over a week, a few million watch the show. But, you know, my show started small on Access TV. The radio reaches 3 million a day now. But it's just, this is powerful stuff. This needs to be seen. But the number one thing, I mean, I'm exhausted, but I can't wait to get on the radio tomorrow and cover this article, because the greatest thing of my 17 years of busting my hind end for a great cause of liberty, it's been an honor, not a hindrance, is that now we've built enough of a platform that when we hit it hard, and when you hit it hard, and when we get the information out on Twitter, Facebook, the globalist weapon systems, using it against them, and on your email and on other talk radio shows, that we're able now every week, at least, used to be every few months, now it's every week, every day, to punch through the Berlin Wall of disinformation and to force a debate and a discussion about what's really happening. And we are getting numbers from police that call us and send us information that now 40, 50, 60% of their departments are waking up. Because I and Ron Paul and others were willing to go out and talk about FEMA camps and military on the streets and stuff that sounded crazy, now as it's happening, people are like, whoa, you're not a tinfoil hat wearer, you are Nostradamus. This is coming true. In fact, I had an Army officer call me last week, and he said, I was known as, his name is Bruce, I was known as a tinfoil Bruce. Now I'm known as Bruce-adamus. And that's the same experience, because who cares if idiots laugh at you who are uninformed? I mean, that's like coming in and your 2-year-old's pouring cereal on their head, and you tell them, don't do that, it makes a mess. The 2-year-old laughs at you. You don't get mad at the 2-year-old pouring cereal on their head. You realize it's a 2-year-old. And so you're like, governments using the military, bad. Mega banks creating false currency and signing you onto the debt, bad. And the public's like, no, like a child at you. Feel sorry for them. Plant the seed dozens of times with them laughing. This is how we're going to beat the globalist. I mean, it's not even a debate. Who cares if some poor person who's ignorant laughs at you? It'd be like if you pulled up to some, autistic person's house and you said your house is on fire and they went, ooh, and ran past you. So what? You call the fire department. You saved them. They don't know. Don't take it personal when people that never read a history book, never studied geopolitical issues, laugh at you. It's our job to warn them and move on.
They're trying to make the United States a giant prison system. In many areas of the United States today, you will be arrested if you do not produce proper ID for the police. In the old days, during the time of slavery, the distinction between a slave, an African slave, and an African Moor was one who had his freedom papers, all right? Or later on, back in the 1940s, the phrase, your papers, please, was used in mockery of the tyranny of the Nazis in Germany. But now all of us are being required to be able to produce our papers for the law enforcement authorities at any time. Now, of course, this is where the Moorish information comes in at, in which that can play a part, is because, once again, there's always loopholes in their system. So, of course, by stating the fact that you are not a 14th Amendment citizen and that, according to the Dred Scott case, you're not a citizen and will never be, as well as many other, that you're not civilis mortus, that you are in full life, you're a non-combatant, non-military, or so forth and so on. There's a way to write up an affidavit of nationality, affidavit of citizenship, in which that, according to international law, according to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, you have the right, as it being indigenous, to a nationality, to self-government, to self-autonomous, or to self-autonomy. You have these particular rights. So I advise each and every one to go and read the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. If we are moving towards this global arena, and then the information on which that is coming from international dictates would be the criteria. And a matter of fact, when you look up the term indigenous, it is almost synonymous with aboriginal. So when I went back and said, who are the real Americans, as I went over last week's show, and we read a definition from Webster Universal Dictionary 1936, 1937, it says aboriginal colored copper tone natives. So if you take the various colors of the penny, copper penny, and put them up against your skin, of course, of course, it's not made from copper nowadays, but they still have the same color. You would be able to, very little copper, I should say, you would be able to see the ranges or the shades in which that they're referring to in that particular definition, and it says specifically before the Europeans settled. So we know that they're not included in the definition as being American. They are classified as U.S. citizens, and what happened is that when they released us from slavery, they made all of us U.S. citizens in the sense of by the 1913 with the creature from Jekyll Island off of the coast of Georgia, the island of Georgia, on the islands of Georgia, off the coast of Georgia, as we would say. They put together the Federal Reserve Bank, the IRS system, and all of these things came into play by 1914, in which that birth certificates was beginning to be issued, which of course is a bond, which is short for the word bondage, in which that they had the names capitalized and then listed an adjective, especially for us. An adjective was associated with that, whether it was white, black, or Negro, colored. These are adjectives. It describes a thing, but it's not a proper noun. It's not a person, place, or thing. Or in this case, it's not a person. I'm talking about in terms of a natural person. Of course, a person can be an artificial person also in that regard, but truthfully, a natural being cannot be a corporation. All right, so these are the things in which that took place. And so according also to Alexander Higgins, students in kindergarten and the first grade in the state of New Jersey are now being required by law to participate in monthly anti-terrorist drills. So it's like from the 1950s when they was had the people hyped on dropping off the bomb, the atomic bomb or the nuclear bombs. I remember even as a child in the 70s, 80s, we had drills just in case of tornadoes, hurricanes, other natural disasters, as well as also, the teachers would tell us that they had to do it for the atomic bombs, in the 1950s and 60s. So now it's anti-terrorist drills. Before the other problems that we're having all over the nation, you would think that the authorities would not be so concerned about little kids that are trying to sell cups of lemonade. But sadly, over the past year, police have been sent in to shut down lemonade stands ran by children all over the United States. I just talked to two brothers this past week, matter of fact, within the last couple of days, from New York to California, Los Angeles, in which that they have been arrested. They were arrested for a few days for riding their bikes, their bicycles. All right? I mean, so, and of course, thinking of the fact that they're riding their bikes on, I think one brother in Los Angeles, I think he was riding his bike on the street, not the street, excuse me, on the sidewalk, and the other brother, he was in a park. But they both got arrested for riding bike. I mean, what would be the ticket for that? Bike violation? I mean, what would that be? No license while riding a bike? I mean, this shit is getting ridiculous. You know, I mean, the federal government has decided to invest a significant amount of time, money, and energy raiding organic farms. Remember, they put out a bill a couple of years ago in order to stop organic growing, you know, of fruits and vegetables. I mean, I haven't traveled. I just traveled recently, and we went through the airport, and it's an absolute disgrace that all of us, including grandmothers and, you know, grandfathers and young children, must be either go through the body scanners that reveals the intimate details of our naked bodies, you know, or endure enhanced pat-downs during which our genitals, you know, are being touched before we allowed to get on an airplane. There's a lot of nonsense. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of, you know, the TSA security techniques are not just for airports anymore. You know, they're actually conducting random inspections at bus stations and on interstate highways all over the United States now. Now, more than 1 million hotel televisions sets all over America are now broadcasting propaganda messages from the Department of Homeland Security promoting the See Something, Say Something campaign. In essence, the federal government wants all of us to become informants, snitches, and to start spying on one another constantly. You know, certain types of, you know, said citizens are being labeled as potential threats in official United States government documents and unclassified Department of Homeland Security reports published a couple years ago called a right-wing extremists. Current economics and political climate fueling resurgence and radicalization and recruitment. You know, back in February 20th, 2009, the state of Missouri issued a report entitled MIAC Strategist Report, the Moderate Militia Movement, in which they speak about anti-abortion activists, those that are against illegal integration, those that consider the New World Order to be a threat, those that have a negative view of the United Nations. Now, got to understand, this is something in which that we have to pay close attention to. You know, as it's been written, actually, I think it was a very disturbing document that Oath Keepers have obtained, shows that the FBI is now instructing store owners to report many new forms of suspicious activities to them. According to the document, suspicious activities now include the following: paying with cash, missing a hand or fingers, strange odors, making extreme religious statements, radical theology, purchasing weatherproofed ammunition or match containers, purchasing meals ready to eat, purchasing night vision devices, night flashlights and radios and gas masks. These are, to them are signs of suspicious activity. So hence potential terrorists, as far as they're concerned. That's part of the new pre-crime technology system that is currently being tested by the United States Department of Homeland Security. All right. It's like the movie Minority Report, Tom Cruise. Assuming and presuming that you are going to do something, or you might thought about doing something, and they'll come and pick you up. This is the type of thing in which that is going on. And it's supposed to be for protection, but the way in which that is happening, I disagree with the tactics. And I understand that they have dumbed down the American people to such an extent that they have to put, United States citizens or said citizens, they have to put protections in place. Okay? Because they have chemically dumbed down the people. Fluoride, mercury, genetically altered food, all of these things are being used to dumb down the people so that the people cannot think. So if they get angry, they're not thinking because they're using emotions, and that's what they would be working off of, the reptilian portion of their brain, fight or flight. And so they are putting precautions based on that scenario. But if you're going to turn the system, crash the economy, turn the system over into something of substance once again, such as with the Amero dollar, in which that will be backed by something of substance, gold and silver, then why not just teach the people about that? I don't understand, nor understand why it would have to be the necessity of doing these things when you can simply teach the people. And it's not as if you're not already programming them. With every TV show is called a program. I mean, the truth is that nobody puts more people into the prison than the United States does. The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world and the largest total prison population on the entire globe. All right? So, this is what is going on. So you're turning this into a giant prison. And so now you just heard, or you heard earlier, Alex Jones speaking about the government activating the FEMA concentration camps across the United States, and how they got an internal document that leaked in which that is starting up all concentration FEMA camps in 72 hours. They passed a bill where the military can detain the United States citizens indefinitely, and now they're starting up the camps, and they are going to hire people to staff it. Now, the services is for bids includes catering, temporary fencing and barricade, laundry, medical services, power generation, refuse collection, and other services required for temporary emergency environments, camps located in far regions of the United States. That's because the belief is that there will be civil disobedience and maybe protesters when the United States dollar collapse, and the whole finance financial system, which the banks purposefully implode the economy and gets bailed out nonstop. Remember, the bill is for the United States citizens. All right? So, or those who believe and never set forth a separation. But this is what would possibly, with the whole financial system collapsing, you would have to say, well, who owns who? Well, let's see, because there's a lot of countries which are bankrupt, including the United States, and they're using us as the collateral, the debt, the commodity.
Time now for John Clark and Brian Doyle with a few reflections on Europe's financial woes.
Your name is Roger, yes?
Roger.
Ah, that's your name.
Roger.
Good. And what do you do, Roger?
I'm a financial consultant.
Ah, financial consultant, eh?
Roger,
yeah,
yes.
Terrific. And Roger, how's business at the moment?
Not bad, thank you. Been a bit quiet lately.
How do you mean lately?
Since the war, been a bit quiet.
Fair enough. Okay, Roger, your special subject tonight is the economies of the European community. Your time starts now. Best of luck.
Thank you.
How much does Greece owe, Roger?
$367 billion.
Correct. And who do they owe it to?
Mostly to the other European economies.
Correct. How much does Ireland owe?
$865 billion.
Correct. And who do they owe it to?
Other European economies, mostly.
Correct. How much do Spain and Italy owe?
$1 trillion each.
Correct. Who to?
Mainly France, Britain and Germany.
Correct. And how are Germany, France and Britain going, Roger?
Well, they're struggling a bit, aren't they?
Correct. Why?
Because they've lent all these vast amounts of money to other European economies that can't possibly pay them back.
Correct. So what are they going to do?
They're going to have to bail them out.
Correct. Where are they getting the money to do that, Roger?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one.
How much does Portugal owe?
Hang on a minute. What was the answer to that earlier question?
Just keep answering the questions, Roger. Where is Portugal going to get the money it owes to Germany if Germany can't get back the money that it lent to Italy?
Just a minute. What was the answer to the previous question? The question was, how can broke economies lend money to other broke economies who haven't got any money because they can't pay back the money the broke economy lent to the other broke economy and shouldn't have lent it to them in the first place because the broke economy can't pay it back?
You're wasting very valuable time, Roger. How much money does Spain owe to Italy?
$41 billion, but where are they going to get it?
Correct. What does Italy owe to Spain?
$27 billion, but they haven't got it. They're broke.
Correct. How can they pay each other if neither of them has any money?
They're going to get a bailout, aren't they?
Correct. And where's the money coming from for the bailout?
That's what I'm asking you.
Correct. Why are people selling the European currency and buying the US dollar?
Because the US economy is so much stronger than the European economy.
Correct. Why is that, Roger?
Because it's owned by China.
Correct. And very well done. And after that round, you've lost $1 million.
I've lost $1 million. I thought you said well done.
Yes, well done. You've only lost $1 million. That's an extraordinary performance, Roger.
I've only lost $1 million.
Very well done.
And that's quite good, is it?
Oh, it's excellent.
Sell everything immediately. Quickly.
I think it's called laughing as you sink.
So, that's what we're looking at. All the economy is collapsing, world finances, and we know that what they do is fund wars in order to generate revenue. But how can they do it if the whole world is collapsing? All right. So, but there's a possibility that because China do own the major part of the United States debt, that they want to collect, and it's been speculated that there could be possibly a war coming. 2012, at least it's been speculated, between China, Russia, and the Arabs against the United States, Britain, and France, etc. In which that the globalists would love for the finance economy of each of these particular areas to crash. Now, what can be, what is it really, we talking about here? Because according to the Constitution, according to all the state constitutions, they specifically speak about the fact that you cannot be jailed or imprisoned for debt. But yet, this is what they are attempting to do. Now, if this is hard to believe, and I'm saying that this is basically a part of the concentration camps also, is that even after the civil unrest, possibly, if that's what they're speculating on, and putting together and bringing together the Amero dollar, that there would still be a crisis in which that they would still be using these camps, and what they would be transferred into from concentration camps is into debtor prisons. And how we know, because in Illinois, you get the article, in Illinois, debtors are thrown in jail. All right. Debtors are being thrown in jail. It says some Illinois residents struggling to pay off their debt has yet another thing to worry about, getting thrown in jail. As WBEZ reports, creditors in the states have figured out ways around the laws that prevent them from putting debtors in prison or in jail. And the number of people being issued arrest warrants linked to unpaid bills is growing. Collection agencies can reportedly file a lawsuit requiring a court appearance, and if the defendant does not show up for their hearing, an arrest warrant can be issued. Now, you got to understand is that this is the importance of protecting your property and assets. And many temples or many said mosques or some said mosques will tell you that not to mess with the UCC. However, the UCC is an international document, and we're talking about international now. We're not talking about just the United States. We're talking about China. We're talking about Great Britain, France, the Arab world, China, Russia. So we're talking about internationally now. And the UCC is what they function up under, the Uniform Commercial Code. The Uniform Commercial Code here in the United States is used to protect your property and assets. Now, if you are a debtor, how do you take yourself from out of that debt position? Well, a debtor has a bond attached to them, hence bondage. That bond is the Social Security, is the birth certificate. And on the UCC1 financial statement, the capitalized name spelled in all caps, will go in the debtor's box. And right next to it, you will put SECQ Trust, a SECQ Trust, which you can look up in Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, 7th edition, in which that shows you that you have a benefit in this trust. And then you will have a indigenous appellation, also i.e. called a free national name, in which that you will put in the secured box or security or the secure party box, in which that does not have a birth certificate tied to it. So hence is not in bondage, hence is free. And you would take all of the assets of the debtor and give the assets to the indigenous appellation. And that would be the front, or either you can do a corporation, a limited liability corporation, a company, which is called an LLC. All of these things can be utilized you must have some type of front. It can be a religious front. But this is, and then you can also take that front and also put it into a trust or foundation, in which that irrevocable trust will give you the ability so that the IRS cannot even come in and penetrate. And your properties and your assets will be protected. And your property, especially if you use the optional Form 90 and optional Form 91. The optional Form 90 speaks about release of lien on real property, and the optional Form 91 speaks about release of personal property from escrow. Escrow is jail. So if you knew how to write up those particular optional forms, you cannot even be put in jail, along with an affidavit or standard Form 28, which is called Affidavit of Individual Surety. Now, many can speak about, well, you don't need any papers. You can just say it. Well, let me tell you the experiences in which that I've seen for Moors who have gone into court just saying that they're Moors. They had to have psychological evaluation, and they was thrown in jail. You must have a paper trail. Do not listen to those in which that are telling you that you do not. That is a lie. I was never thrown in jail because I had information on which that preceded me prior to me going. A motion can be denied. However, a notice or affidavit cannot be. An affidavit has to be rebutted point by point. So, this is what we're talking about as far as a solution. Because these practices leads to modern day debtors' prisons. We're talking about arrest warrants for debtors are flourishing statewide, but soon nationwide. As a matter of fact, there's a Wall Street Journal article in which that reports that the judges in Illinois and 9 counties across the country have signed off on 5,000 debt-related warrants since 2010. But that is just one. That's just one state. But I had to use that state in order to get my point across, is that this is where they're going with this. Now, so not only are you protecting yourself with your paperwork, also now back your paperwork, such as with a gold certificate or a silver bond certificate, in which that you actually have gold and silver. According to the Constitution, the only lawful money is actually coinage minted by the United States Treasury Department, I think you have to have at least 20 pieces of silver. Moors normally do 22 to 25 pieces, in which that when you have gold or silver, you are not in debt. However, something happened prior to World War II, in which that the House Joint Resolution 192 was signed off by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in which that the silver and gold was no longer no longer backed the fiat note, or would no longer back the greenback. In other words, there would no longer be silver and gold certificates, in which that would be redeemable at a Federal Reserve Bank, in which that there's 13 Federal Reserve Bank, in which that 12 within the United States, and then of course the main one, the 13th overall bank, in which that also correlates to the IMF and the World Bank, in which that they soon want to turn that into a whole one centralized banking system also. as part of the one world government or the New World Order. Now, these 12 banks is identified on the back of your Social Security card. It's the letter prior to the numbers. The letter of the alphabet is from A through L, in which that's 12, in which that shows the bank in which that actually has this trust, or this tied, which is tied to this trust. Now, this gives you the capability to use paper for paper if you learn the discharge process or the accepted for value process, as it is also referred to as the set-off process, in which that you can use bill of exchanges and bonds, in which that you are able to discharge your debts. So that means if you have student loans, mortgages, car notes, so forth and so on, even, your little house bill, phone bill, light bill, cable bill, all these things can be discharged if you know the process. You will use a 1099-A, 1099-B. 1099-A is used in order to transfer credit into FRNs. That's what to a 1099-A to a 1099-B. A 1099-C is the cancellation of debt. So you would use a 1099-C for cancellation of debt. Of course, that would go with a 1040 voucher. You would need an appointment letter to the CFO of the corporation, as well as a Form 56. A lot of information. But these are ways in order to protect yourself and your family and to bring forth your survival rate, to increase and enhance your survival rate. Even though there are people who are saying not to use these things, but yet in a lecture in South Carolina prior to Obama getting elected president, he put forth a clue in which that he stated that all African Americans and all serious-minded Americans need to learn the UCC process. And that was a warning because right after he got in, we, as so-called blacks, the minority, as they would say, got blamed for the crash of Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, of the economics of their housing or mortgage collapse. They blamed us for that. That's because we do not know how to discharge debt. And this economy crash will also be blamed because we don't know how to, once again, discharge debt, set off, except for value. What we are stating is that there needs to, you need to purchase silver and gold, because that is something on which that you will be able to utilize if the economy crashes, or when, I should say, the economy crashes. This is something on which that we need to do. You read the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. It says Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excesses to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excesses shall be uniform throughout the United States. So that's what should be uniformed. Now, it says to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Well, who is the credit for the United States? You are. You are the credit in which that is being borrowed by the United States from other countries. But you do not know it. So hence, you are actually the debit or the debtor. And you must transform yourself into the creditor. And how you do that is by doing a UCC-1 financial statement, an affidavit, claim of lien, in which that you lien your birth name, your birth certificate, The name in all caps, that is your birth name in all caps, your birth certificate, bond number, as well as also the state file number on your birth certificate, as well as also your Social Security card numbers, front and back, your employer number, also referred to as your QSIP number, and your AutoTrust number, and the number on the back, which is your IMF number, also referred to as your prepaid levy bond number, as well as all of your collateral, all your debt. That's whether it's any account in which that is attached to your capitalized name, or your name in all caps. It must be claimed and lien. Then you can write the appropriate copyright, trademark, trade name, affidavit of UCC1 attachment, security agreement, affidavit, private agreement affidavit, affidavit of grant power of attorney, affidavit of hold harmless indemnity clause, affidavit of bond for discharge, affidavit for negative avertment, bill of exchange, non-negotiable chargeback, as well as also a private bond set-off. There is a lot of information that must be studied quickly, and I'm not seeing a holistic view of a lot of the information in which that is being propagated from the various arenas. So, we are funding the prison system, and every prisoner has a monetary value to our government, whether it's local, county, state, or federal. Bonds is written based on the person's name and Social Security number, and are sold through a brokerage firm such as A.G. Edwards or Merrill Lynch, who has the contract to sell all the prison bonds for the city, county, state, or federal prisons. Now, over 50% of the money market bonds right now are purchased in Japan or China. All right? And I've been told by researchers that Walmart used to use, and Kmart also purchased these bonds. All right? So, basically, in other words, if a person is convicted of a felony, the value can be as high as $4 million. The county, city, state then multiplies it by 10. So the bond then goes out for sale with the prisoner's name and Social Security number as a short-term promissory note. So it's offered at $40 million. Perhaps an investor will offer 40% of the $40 million or $16 million. Once this promissory note of the face value of $40 million reaches the bank, it is then multiplied again by 200 to 300% and sold as a bank securities. For those of you who wonder why the United States has so many people in prison per capita than any other nation on earth, you begin to understand how we can have a weakened economy and still fund wars overseas. It is all based on prisoners. In other words, prison for profit, and particularly privatized prisons. The storage is pretty cheap. One woman, you know what I'm saying, while in jail, search the cost of feeding prisoners per day, and it ranges between 74 cents to $2.72 per prisoner per day. But yet, the prisoner can't have a net worth of, say, $10,000 per day in the money market. Who are the owners of the prison system in America? Well, it's the Corporation Corp, the Correction Corp of America, which is headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee, who owns all the private prisons, systems in America and are selling the commercial paper. How it works? Real simple. A bid bond is done on Form 24, which comes out of the GSA, which is the Office of General Service Administration, or GAO, the General Accounting Office, which is under the Comptroller General. This bond, oblique bond or bond bid is propagated at the time that the Social Security card is issued. And when you are arrested, the bond is filled out, and they issue a performance bond, which is done from Form 25. And then they do a payment bond, which is Form 25A. Now, that's state level. At the federal level, it's Form 273, 274, 275, which is the bid bond, performance bond, and the payment bond. And the bonds are being underwritten by the banks. This is where the Payne-Weber groups come in. The plaintiff in all criminal tax cases in the United States is the Payne-Weber group, which is as the United States of America. The Payne-Weber group is a group of international businesses. The Payne-Weber group is providing the securities for the prisons and is selling the bonds in the bank. The ABA, which is the American Banking Association, i.e. like the Lehman Brothers in New York City, or the underwriters on the bonds. The banks, the underwriters, the Lehman Group, or the Lehman Brothers, is where the money is originally coming from. So they use a 6-digit tracking number, which is issued from the certificate of stock in the Commodity and Security Exchange in the United States by QSIP, in which that you can go to www.cusip.com and www.cjts.com and www.fidelity.com. And on fidelity.com, you can actually sign up and see who has your bond and how much you are being sold for on the open market, on the stock exchange. So the law enforcement tracking software and also a 9-digit number called a ordinance number is issued for the certificate of stocks going internationally to ANA, which is basically ANA is located in Brussels, Belgium, and you'll see more about them on www.qsip.com. But it says the jails are referred to as warehouses, and the prisoners are called goods. So they are selling the goods or the accounts as chattel and as commercial property on the stock exchange. Now, this reminds me of when slaves were being bought and sold on the auction block. Now, let's look at the definition of a slave. A person who is wholly subject to the will of another, one who has no freedom of action, but whose person or services are wholly under the control of another, one who is under the power of a master and who belongs to him, so the master may sell or dispose of his person or of his industry and of his labor without his being able to do anything, have anything, or acquire anything, but what must belong to his master. Now, that's Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. And then look up chattel. It says an article of personal property, any species of property not amounting to a freehold. In other words, chattel is not free. There is no freehold or fee in land. The term chattel is a more comprehensive one than goods, as it includes animated as well as inanimated property. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 1st edition. And so for the chattel, you have your chattel papers, i.e. your birth certificate, your Social Security card. All these things are chattel papers, your identification, your driver's license, your marriage certificate, or your marriage license as they refer to it as. Now, the strange thing is that chattel is a nice little French word in which that means cattle. Now, when you get to the Jewish word, you can look this up in the New Strong's Exhaustive Coordinates of the Bible, for your Bible thumpers. Goy, which is the plural form, is goyim. It says often disparaging a non-Jewish person, Gentile, also goy. Goyim, a foreign nation, hence a Gentile, also a troop of animal or a flight of lotus. Gentile, heathen, nation people. Literally, goyim means nation, as it is also Jewish slang for cattle or animals. Per Jewish thinking, there is only two nations in the world, the Jewish nation and the Gentile, non-Jewish nation. All right? Now, when you go to the word monster within Ballantine Law Dictionary 1930 and Black's Law Dictionary First Edition, it says a human being by birth. This is monster. A human being by birth, but in some parts resembling a lower animal. A monster having no inheritable blood and cannot be heir to any land. So hence when we use the terms Negro, Black, and Colored, we are seen and perceived as beasts or monsters and have no inherent tie to land. But yet, they know that we have tied to land because in the King Alfred Plan / Rex 84, which Oliver North is the one who helped put together the Rex 84, in which that was taken from the King Alfred Plan. All right? And matter of fact, it goes on to state how he actually helped put together FEMA. He actually helped put together FEMA. All right? So, these are the individuals. As a matter of fact, it says Rex 84 was devised by Colonel Oliver North, who was with the NSC and appointed liaison to FEMA. John Brinkerhoff, the Deputy Director of the National Preparedness Programs for FEMA, and North designed the plan on a 1970 report written by FEMA Chief Louis Gayufet Farinda and at the Army War College. Now, of course, that was King Alfred Plan, which proposed the detention up to 21 million African Negroes in the event of a black militant uprising in the United States. All right, this is what they proposed in the 1970s. Okay, and now they took the King Alfred Plan, transformed to the Rex 84, which was signed by Ronald Reagan, and now is the instruction for FEMA, the executive orders for the President of the United States. However, in the King Alfred Plan, Rex 84, or King Alfred Plan specifically, it originally said that the minorities are bound to this continent by heritage. That's what it says, that the minorities are bound to this continent by heritage. And they know that they cannot seek asylum to another country. This is what it says. So that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So, when you read goods, let's go to goods. It says goods means all things that are movable with security interest attaches. It says the unborn young of animals. So we are being perceived as animals. What do you think a 3/5 of a person is according to Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution? That is a monster, a beast, an animal, a subhuman. Have the appearance of a human, but is part animal. Hence Gentiles, hence your genitals, your lower self, your lower mind, your lower nature. In other words, we have been dumbed down to think only within our lower 4 chakras. We're not the gods that we used and goddesses that we used to be. Now, if you go to, according to the Jewish encyclopedia, in Gentiles above, it says a Gentile is a beast. And you can also see fill, warehouse receipts, identification of goods, Gentiles and Goyim. And it says that, note that all things which are movable, which is equals newborn children, at the time the security interest attached equals birth and execution, registration of the birth, document, certificate, identification to the contract equals newborns, footprints, handprints, and their former mother's signature, contract equals birth certificate, things in action equals human fetus, newborn babies, unborn youngs of animals equals human fetus. So this is how we are being perceived. All right, so this is what is going on, and we have offered solutions. We're now going to go to the line. Caller 609, you're on the air. Caller 609, you're on the air. Area code 609.
Peace. You hear me?
Peace. Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had chest aches. Hey, this brother Tony, I was just calling regards to some of the information we're letting out. First of all, very informative, brother. Thank you very much. But I do have some questions. Just I've been around for a while. Just as a student. Still am a student, and I've been hearing some things from different older Moors and stuff like that regarding the UCC. I know you're pretty much sufficient in it, but there's some more to say, like I said, that UCC was actually created in the early 1990s by a group of lawyers. This is what I heard, and pretty much it was created for financial, for financial protection. Some say that the best way to fill one out is to do it as a group. Do a group, UCC one financial statement. But you can check all that.
Yes, I was saying right, exactly, as a limited liability corporation, a company.
Yeah. And then some say that the profit, you don't need it because the profit already set something up for us where we don't need that. Where we use his what's the number he used?
1099.
1099. He created his own, almost like his own Social Security number, because at the time they didn't have Social Security numbers. So he created his own on the back of the look at the back of the 101s. He has the number. And,
the authority number, right?
You use that instead of your own, and now it protects you. That's why they say the prophet said, you put me out in the front. You know what I'm saying? I can't quote the actual saying what the prophet said, but he said, whatever you do, make sure I'm out in the front. So that's what that's some people want to say that, and other groups, like I said, they say that the UCC it doesn't even hold weight at this point in time. So and you said it was international. Like if it was created by a group of lawyers, then how did it get international? Like what backs that? Like how would they honor something that actually was created in the bounds of the United States and not necessarily international document that was actually agreed upon. Was it agreed upon to be accepted? Like, so you're saying I can go to like any country with UCC and I don't have to honor it? I mean, I'm just saying, like, I mean, it's good information. I'm just like, it's just a lot. You know what I'm saying? But then I just need some clarity, like on like.
Yeah, well, it's real simple. The UCC, which is the Uniform Commercial Code, basically the whole nation or country / the world is now under what is called Admiralty or Maritime Law. So that document is under Admiralty Law, in which that deals with water. And what they did was they ended land law, which is based on Constitution and common law, and they made everything water law, which is Admiralty or Maritime Law, in which that now the UCC falls up under commerce, in which that if you want to conduct commerce, then the instrument in which that you operate with is something in which that nationally and internationally you can use in order to protect property and assets. Now, profit over drali is something in which that, of course, is national. So that is good for those who might want religious protection. Is also in the form of, like you said, utilizing our authority number as the Social Security number, and then, of course, the 1099 form for tax purposes and so forth and so on. And, yes, that is true. However, what does that do for your personal property? So we talk about personal property, and we're talking about protection as far as taxes are concerned. There's two different categories in which that we are referring to here. Mm-hmm. Now, you would still have to do an affidavit, like I also stated. You have to also do an affidavit claim of lien if you're going to use our authority, that particular number. You have to do an affidavit claim of lien and still attach a collateral list to it. You would still have to attach a collateral list to it, in which that is all your property and assets. Mm-hmm. You would still have to do that. You cannot get away from doing some type of affidavit claim of lien or some type of protection of property and assets. Otherwise, it can be taken from you. And I also spoke about a trust, in which that you can do once you have those paperwork in place. Once you have the county recorder or the register of deeds, sealed and signed those particular documents, you can also turn it into a trust or a foundation. The trust would be an irrevocable trust, in which that now, being that you're using a 1099, the IRS cannot come in order to confiscate, and they can't pierce, what we call, or what is known as the irrevocable trust. They can't pierce that. So that means that your property and your assets cannot be taken. Now, even in the religious setting, the majority of people in this country have debt. What do you propose to do with the majority of people who have debt? If you're going to college, you have debt because you have. If you have a house in which that you are mortgaging off, that's debt. If you have a car that you're paying for, that's debt. If you have credit cards that you have to pay monthly, that is debt. What is the proposed suggestion by the temple in order to help with the remedy of that specifically? And that's the thing that I have. That's the issue I have, is that I'm not hearing what to do specifically. I'm hearing a group setting, but a group, that means that you have to have some type of front still, a corporation or something, in which that the group actually is forming a board of trustees or some type of committee in order to operate under, in order to protect property and assets. However, is everyone in the temple forming a trustee or forming a committee, or is that just those particular individuals who sit at the helm, such as the Grand Sheik, the Assistant Grand Sheik, the Chairman, the Assistant Grand Chairman, the Secretary, the Treasury? That is the Board of Trustees according to the temple information that I've studied. Now, that'll have nothing to do with the members unless the members
put their assets under the temple's name. Yeah. And unless the temple actually have formed a trust in order to protect those properties and assets, in which that they state that if under dissolution of this trust, the property turns back over to the individual or the natural person, I should say, of the property, or either or either put in a will type that it turns over to the family members or whatever the case is. Now, this is the only way in which that I know how to protect property and assets. Anything else, is theory. I can't go into what's getting ready to happen on a theory or on an opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I have to have concrete information. And like you said, one group saying this, one group saying that, and I've been dealing with this for over 20 years with everybody saying this and saying that. But I'm saying what works because I've done it. So that's all I can come from is what I've done in order to secure my family future and my future.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one thing. Like for you, I know what you have presented and the information you covered for the times you've been doing it. My issue, one thing, and I know a lot of more is probably on listening to that, is that, you know what I'm saying, is the UCC is good and it's definitely utilized. You know what I'm saying, it's good for, to be utilized. But one thing I have a problem with some more who do it, who teach it, you know what I'm saying, and I'm not going to name no names, but, that they get a lot of funds and support, whatever, financial gain from it, whatever, but they don't go back to doing what we're really supposed to be doing. Like, okay, you're going to free a lot of people who get into this movement. They get into it because UCC free if they did, right, or whatever. And then what? They don't do nothing with it. They just it's almost like a I free my debt. I'm good, whatever. But now you free up. You know how to do that. You know how to operate with no debt, without the foreign jurisdiction putting any names or getting caught up in debt. All right, now it's time for you to utilize it and build something else. Like I know Gracie Gadar, he had the idea with the trust fund. And
right, and I agree. That's why I make mention. Right, that's why I made mention of the Wadif or the trust. I agree, exactly. Umar would become or be utilized also as a trust. Exactly, I agree. And that's what I'm saying is that these things have to, in other words, we have to up the ante. We have to get into the science of trust. We have to get into the science of foundations because you have the Cognate Trust. You have the Ford Trust. You have the Rockefeller Foundation. These are things in which that this is how they're able to protect their property and assets. And the science is what John D. Rockefeller said is that own nothing but control everything.
Yeah. Like I said, own nothing control. And I definitely see that. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, the energy is when people are getting it just for selfish, like, I wanna write off, saying Alexa. I met one brother who was doing classes at a certain group, doing classes with a certain group, more. Now he said he wanted to write off for a Beamer or whatever like that. He really was serious, like, yo, I'm gonna write off a Beamer. This clear of all my college debt. I'm gonna get this Beamer, whatever, and I'm gonna front, you know what I'm saying, with these checks. And then I got another friend who, he studies now and then, whatever. But he has a friend from New York who's totally out of pocket with it. Like, he was just writing all crazy stuff, like, you know what I'm saying, trying to, really, floss with it, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm thinking, I'm not trying to, a lot of more, there's some more that shun the UCC. And I think what it is that it needs to be, if it's going to be taught to our people, man, it needs to be taught with some discipline, man, because people are just wilding with it, man. I agree.
But the people that are wilding are individuals who are these monsters in which that I'm talking about, in which that is known as the Goheen or the chattel property, in which that the Jews are referring to. They are the Gentiles. They are in their lower nature. And we already know and have the idea and the science of how not to be in our lower nature, because Noble Drew Ali told us what merges the lower nature into the higher nature, and it was through the holy breath. So we must learn the science of breath. But in this learning the science of breath, which is something that we do on a daily basis, but we have shallow breathers, we must lengthen and deepen our breaths, inhalation and exhalation, so that we can move the lower chakras, energy, and attributes into the higher chakras from our mortal body into our immortal body, so that not only will we be able to survive the New World Order, we be able to survive death. So these are the keys in which that was taught to us by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and much credence is due to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, except the thing is that, like you said, it's not being taught properly. And if they thinking that they're going to be thinking about flossing, just to be flossing, then they have the wrong concept.
That's the thing, and it's like I said, I ain't trying to call out names, but it's being retaught. You know what I'm saying? Again, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, and I'm like, all right, this particular individual that's teaching it is like, all right, why are you teaching it? What's necessary? Because it seems like information is being recycled now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, all right, now you're recycling information that people already touched on, but now it's like, are you willing to take on the responsibility when people get their homes repossessed? Because you didn't, because that particular individual didn't just let the information out, and people follow them, you know what I'm saying? And then they repossess their home, because there's a lot more than put the information out. People follow them, and then, it didn't that, it just wasn't that thorough. And people, lost their homes, they lost everything else.
Right. Well, I've done mortgages for people, in particular, family from out of the Chicago area, in which that we discharged their debt, we helped discharge a debt of nearly $250,000, and that was just within the last year and a half. And
$250,000. Wow.
Right, and they are still in their home to this day, and they have the title or the deed to their home. The court gave it to them based on the fact that they was already in good standing, and they sent in the bond or the bill of exchange, and they did what, I told them to do, and they sent it in through Western Union, a payment, just in case. If the bond didn't work, they sent the payment back, refunded the payment, so they sent back the mortgage payment, but yet they kept the bond. Well, guess what? If you go to the UCC information, I think it's, what is it? It's UCC, oh, man, let me think.
You said you said in good standing.
Right, you have to be in good standing, right.
So people out there got to be in good standing before they actually go.
Right, well, what they trying to do is cloud the title. That's the only thing they're trying to do is cloud the title. That's what they're trying to do is cloud the title. But I'm talking about actual discharging process and being in good standing. That's UCC Article 3. You get UCC Article 3, Negotiable Instruments, Part 6. It says discharge and payment. And it's UCC 3-603, tender of payment. And right, and it specifically says in the UCC that if the tender of payment or an amount due on the instrument is made to a person to enforce the instrument, the obligation of the obligor to pay interest after the due date on the amount tendered is discharged. If presentment is required with respect to an instrument and the obligor is able and ready to pay on the due date at every place of payment states in the instrument, the obligor is deemed to have made tender of payment on the due date to the person entitled to enforce the instrument. Right. It also says if the tender of payment of the obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument, and the tender is refused, there is discharge. to the extent of the amount of the tender, of the obligation of the endorser, or accommodation party having a right of recourse with respect to the obligation to which the tender relates. So that means that if you give a negotiable instrument to someone, which is i.e. a CFO of a corporation, whether it's a mortgage company, bank, or a corporation, their obligation is to make that, because it's paper for paper now. Remember, after the House Joint Resolution 192, it's paper for paper. So that means that your bond or your bill of exchange goes into payment. And if they refuse, then it will still be that it was paid. Now, this is according to UCC 603 with tender of payment. So this is what people don't understand, overstand, and understand, is that all of this is a way of protection until we go back onto something of real substance, such as gold and silver standard. But until we get to that point, all right, because you got to realize that's what Noble Drew Ali and them was under in 1913 through 1929. All right? Remember, it was days after Noble Drew Ali death. It was 2 weeks or so after his death that the economy collapsed because supposedly of him going to the Pan-American movement, in Havana, Cuba in 1928. Now, the problem is that we have not been able to find that document. That document has been purposely hidden.
Well,
But it has been stated that the land mandate of North, South, Central America was given to Prophet Noble Drew Ali at that time period. Now, I can't say it was North, South, Central, but what I can say is that correlates to the same information of the land grant up under the Empress, in which that she has of the whole Louisiana Purchase all the way up into the whole of Canada. So, I mean, I can't say because we have not seen that documentation as of yet, and I've been searching for it for the last 15 some odd years, if not more.
We gotta find out who actually initially said that.
Right.
Where did it come from?
Right. So there's a lot of talk about it, but there's no proof of it. We have yet to see the proof of it, and this is what I need. I can't, until I see the proof of it, that's spookism.
Yeah, it is.
Until I see the aliens come out the sky on their aircrafts and they touch down the earth and say "Oonga Boonga," then that's spookism.
Right.
I'm not going by spookism. I mean, I done left them Bible stories alone a long time ago. I need to see some actual proof. I mean, I got elimination guys earth. Show and prove, God.
I mean, I'm with you on that.
This is what we need if we're gonna go forward. If all of this supposedly be outside of what we're doing, if we don't need the UCC, if we don't need it, then we know that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was living during a time where gold and silver was redeemable. He was not there in 1933 when the gold and silver standard of the money, where it was taken off the money, and it was produced with fiat notes or FRNs, or just for the reserve notes.
Right.
That came 4 years after his death.
Mm-hmm.
So we're now under a paper system, House Joint Resolution 192, 1933, sealed and signed by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Right.
So something that he did not have to deal with. Now we can use that information that you're talking about and secure ourselves. Then the Grand Sheiks of the Temple, who also know where that information is of the 1928 Pan-American Conference, need to step forward and show this information to the Moors. And we can end all of the confusion. But until that happens, you have to find a way in order to protect yourself, because right now I can't live by pipe dreams.
Right.
I can't secure the future of myself and my family by pipe dreams. I have to have something in which that is tangible. Gold and silver is something that is tangible. I can touch that. You know, this information that I'm talking about tonight, I have read that. I can see that. Based on the current climate of everything in which that is occurring, we can assess that. You know, in other words, I don't have to be a prophet or a medium, you know, or a seer, you know, in order to see that shit is getting ready to hit the fan. Because it's all accumulating at the same time. You know. So, I mean, that's my scenario right now, until we get this thing better, you know, under control, until we get it, you know, more under control. You know, as far as bickering and the distinction between which school of thought is the truth, like I told you before, whether it's Charles Kirkman Bey group or whether it's Emily Ills group or whether it's John Given Ills group or whether it's the Nation of Islam / David Ford L or / if it wasn't Master Farah Muhammad, you know, Elijah Muhammad. So, I mean, you know, a lot of risks, you know, and a lot of things in which that came through, as Taj and Sister Yafa would tell you themselves, came through infiltration, Masonic infiltration, came through various things, and so there's a lot of information in which that we have not been able to assess based on things relating to the temple. But besides for that, you know, yes, we do have the 1099 form. We do have the, you know, the number, you know, our authority number. And, of course, we can utilize that as being the Moorish Science Temple of America or / Moorish Holy Temple of Science / Moorish Divine National Movement. And I do suggest we do use any and everything that we can help secure our property and assets, everything in which that helps with us allow, you know, of being able to get our necessities, the things in life that we need, food, clothing, and shelter. You know, so there's no disrespect to anyone of any group, but it's just the fact is that right now I don't have time to bicker. I have time to I have a little bit of time to do enough study in order to try to get enough mastery done so that we can have some type of survival.
So what about preparing your children, like your child, like you know, because you know our situation, our offspring don't have any instrument like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
right. Well, you have a baptismal record. If you have a baptismal record for the child, then that works just as good. You can get a child in school if you go outside of homeschool. You can get a child, go to the doctor with a baptismal record. You can get a child in order to go to anywhere with a baptismal record. They still accept baptismal records, which is part of the Moorish Science Temple of America / Moorish Holy Temple and / Moorish Divine National Movement.
But here's another question. What about traveling? Like, what if we want to go on the airplane? Because you got to have something for the child.
Right. Well, I would have to have some type of temporary passport, in which that, of course, if you go to www.famguardian.org, you can actually amend the United States citizen passport to become a United States national.
Right.
Which actually is an American national.
American national?
You're right.
No. All right, that doesn't put you under their jurisdiction. You just use that temporarily.
That puts you way above a United States citizen status.
Oh, I got to know. I got to find where is that? Like, I didn't know that.
Right. So that's what you would get your child is a temporary passport or whatever they propose in order for their travel. In which that the child would be a American national as well as you and your wife. You will have your passports. If you have passports, you will have those amended. However, if you're a felon, guess what? You can't get
don't have passports.
No, I'm just saying, if an individual is a felon, they can't get a passport.
Right. Yeah.
They can barely vote. You know, so, I mean, that's a form of slavery also. And with us talking about the prison population, with over nearly 2 million brothers in prison and 1 million sisters in prison, we're talking about almost 3 million people, you know, in which that, of our people, in which that they are utilizing to fund this debt society.
Right.
You know, and so hence the debtor prisons / FEMA camps and so forth and so on coming into fruition, in which that, of course, was spoken about a long time ago, over 20 years ago. Matter of fact, 20 years ago specifically, if you get 1991, the book, classic, you know, book, Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper.
Yeah, I just dug that out.
Right, exactly. So that's my answers, Brother Talib. That's all I can give you is what I know. I don't know everything, so, you know, but I'm willing to learn. And so, of course, anybody who had any information, you know, please bring it forward. But, you know, hypotheses or, you know, opinions, you know, to me, like I said last week, opinions are like assholes. Everyone got one. You know, I need facts. You know,
right.
I'm also from the school of Dr. Malakazi York with factology. I need to know some facts.
Right.
You know, so,
right.
I mean, that's my mind state where I'm at right now, God.
Yeah, I appreciate, you know, this building, you know what I mean, and, yeah, that's, you know, I'm still, you know, like I said, I'm still way behind the edge. I still need a little more, you know, training in those areas, especially with UCC, whatever. I don't know how to do one. You know, I kind of got an idea, and then, you know, I got a little one. I want to protect him, you know, because eventually, you know, when he gets older, you know what I'm saying, you know, how is he supposed to go get a job, a trade? Well, I don't really bet on him actually getting that. He'll get his own, make his own means of, you know, obtain the funds. But, you know, what if he wants to go to a university or something like that? You know what I'm saying? They're going to need those type of things. But, I mean, there's always method.
And you be able to do it with a baptismal record and a vaccine exempt form.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that sounds, I mean, you know what? I don't want to, because I know there's probably other callers that want to call in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a few.
Yeah. What I'm going to do is, you know, we'll build later. You know,
okay,
I definitely need some, you know, I definitely want to need some counseling or consultation, you know what I'm saying, on the
Right. I got you.
All right.
Peace and blessings. All right. We're going to caller 347. Caller 347. You're on the line.
Yes. Good night to you and your audience. It's time for an ad, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. It's Feel the Power of the Inca with Maca Magic. Maca is a Peruvian root related to the radish that contains a plethora of nutrients and is becoming a popular dietary supplement that is known for increasing energy, balancing hormones, and overall wellness. Please go to www.macaroot.com, Maca as in M-A-C-A, root.com, or to order or call them direct, please call 541-846-6222. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right. Y'all heard it. Definitely go and check that website out because we still have to maintain health. You know, also get you a lot of vitamin C, vitamin B complex, super stress formula, you know, vitamin B6, vitamin B12 that helps with the energy levels, converting the food into energy for the cells, as well as also helps deal with stress levels. And we're going to need it. We need it now before this information that we're talking about. All right, we're going to go to caller 302. 302, you on the line.
Peace, Alim.
Peace.
Peace, what's going on? Yeah, I just want to ask a real quick question. I know time running out. Title 8, Section 1452 speaks about a certificate of non-citizen national status. Would you if you apply to the Secretary of State, would you be able to get that in your national name, or would you get that in the strawman name?
You would get that in your national name.
Like, what would they want though? What would be the requirement?
They would want proof of a name change correction, or what they call affidavit of common law name correction, in which that you can get filed at the civil filing section by a clerk of superior court.
All right.
And then you can go on over to the Secretary of State and tell them that's what you want, and show them proof that your affidavit has been sealed and signed and stamped by the clerk of court, in which that it's not a name change, but it's a name correction, in which that give you the ability in order to utilize the name in which that you have chosen, and you can get your information done that way.
And then you could use that to get a passport, right?
Yes, you can use that to get a passport, exactly. Matter of fact, that's the only thing they would need, is to get that information along with the affidavit name correction form, in which that you would send to the United States American Passport Company in Louisiana, in which that they will make your passport in that particular name, which is in your free national name, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's peace.
Oh, yeah. All right, I appreciate you. And we're getting ready to end tonight. We appreciate y'all for hanging on with us. Hopefully y'all gathered some information from the night's discussion, and we're going to see y'all this Wednesday coming up.
First World Order Radio, finally, we are on the air. No doubt. All right.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio.
We get on into some of that order consciousness tonight.
First World Order Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m.
We got to talk about what is taking place on the planet.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio. First, we need to let you know we're going to be doing more shows, giving out more information on Wednesdays. Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we are now going to make this the hottest day of the week.
Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it. Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it.
You need to understand how magical this something like this every Wednesday can become. So you need to start getting your calendar right, get your schedule right. You need to know our intentions straight out.
All right, so these clues are given throughout the various languages was to piece the puzzle of this ancient mystery school back together again.
And what we plan on doing, both of us, is bringing y'all some surefire dynamite. We're going to take this level up a notch. We're going to have stuff to do here. This is not just going to be about philosophies and theories, shit that works.